People hate you guys, right? Well, not all people, but most people who don't know why you need to kill an animal to get meat, because they can just go to Checkers, right? And get the meat from Checkers.
Yeah.
Because no animals die there. And abattoirs aren't really brutal when they kill the animals, right? So why do you think people hate hunters or hate the idea of hunting? Or they'll eat the meat, right? They'll be at the braai and yes, hier is lekker vlakvark, right? But they don't want to be there when you shoot the vlakvark or the warthog.
Yeah.
Okay, so why? You've probably on your podcast you had a woman on the first
Yes,
one.
Suited bull.
Yeah, and she was anti-hunting, and then she turned into pro-hunting, and now she explained that to you. So why? What was her reasoning?
Yeah, she referred to herself as a non-hunter, so she didn't hunt herself, but she grew up in a house where they do hunt, you know. But when she was on a trip to Tanzania, and she then learned actually why you need to hunt certain animals. Well, not certain animals, you know. I think in her mind she said, yes, it's fine to shoot a kudu or a waterbuck or eland, but it's not okay to shoot a zebra because it looks like a horse. And it's only when she arrived in Africa to find out actually why it's important that an animal has a value. If there's no value on the animal, it will lose its importance in the conservation industry. So if there's no price tag to it, people won't want it anymore. So then what will happen? The local tribes people will kill it for meat.
And this is what happens not just in hunting, in anything in our society. If there's no price tag to it, then immediately it's got no value.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I've seen in my industry a lot, I'll get a call. A hippo was struck by a truck or a bucky, and it's next to the road. First thing they do is, does anybody know a pH? Okay, because nature conservation in our area, for example, don't know what to do. They arrive there with a 9 mil. You've got a really cool story to tell about that. But what I've seen is also, it's almost instantaneously where people come from the surrounding areas, middle of the night, don't know where they come from, but they're armed with axes.
Yeah.
And they are now going, and pangas, and they're going to chop up this animal for meat. And so that also, it's a source of sustenance for
Yes.
the majority of the urban communities.
Yeah.
So now, how does hunting fit into the ecological side of things, like with the conservation? I know that sometimes people will call a hunter because we need to cull some animals. Why would you do that, for example?
Now look, with the culling part of the hunting side, your property that you have, obviously it's fenced in. So you only have a certain amount of food available for those animals. So if there is too many animals, for example, let's take a very sensitive subject, giraffe. Giraffe are browsers, so they eat the leaves on top of a tree. And let's say you have 1,000 hectares and you're permitted to have 10 giraffe on your property because that's enough food for them. If they do start reproducing and all of a sudden you've got 20 giraffe on your property, what will happen? There's no more food left for them. So one of two things will happen. The neighbors got giraffe as well. There's cows there. So the younger bulls that gets pushed out of the herd will break the fences and they will become a problem animal, or they'll kill the trophy giraffe bull on your neighbor's property.
And then become a real problem.
Or they keep on breaking the fence. So that's where they rather connect a trophy feed to that animal and they cull it out. The meat, nothing gets to wasted. So there's a saying in Africa, the only thing that's left on the ground is a wet spot.
Okay.
So that means everything gets utilized. That means the meat or gets sold or the community takes the meat.
Like in the example with the hippo, you get
Yes.
the pH in to put the animal out of its misery.
Yes.
The meat goes to the communities.
Yes. The second thing that can happen, the trophy hunter will pay the trophy tag fee for that animal. So he gives money towards that animal. So rather than it just it dies of hunger or kills the neighbor's giraffe, you get money back for that animal. So with the culling part of it, that animal doesn't die for nothing.
Mm.
Okay, so let's say you have lions on your property. Lions need food,
Mm.
but to put it on your property, you must know even in the fenced area it's gonna walk in, you mustn't have expensive animals in there because a lion doesn't care if it's $100,000 animal or $5,000 or $100 animal. He sees food.
Mm.
So there is a reason why there is price tags on these animals, and that is so that let's say you shoot a trophy lion, it's $25,000. It's a class 3 lion, so it's a proper trophy lion that a hunter wants. With that $25,000, that farm owner can go and buy another lion to introduce new bloodline into the herd.
Mm.
So there's a lot of stuff that just goes around just killing of the animal.
Mm.
And I think that's the misconception a lot of the people have that doesn't understand why we hunt and why it's so important that we continue with it. In the early 1900s, lions were on the verge of extinction in our country. If it wasn't for farmers that started putting them into fenced properties and to start breeding with them and putting the trophy lions out for hunting, we wouldn't even have lions in our country left, you know?
It's the same with the rhino.
Yes.
I mean, if it wasn't for guys like Piet Warren, I forget the big boy's name. I can't remember his name. And then there's an American guy in Gravelot area as well. And they've got security guards there. They've put in a lot of money into protecting these rhino.
Yes.
And then they also dehorn them and they breed them. So it's the same thing. I mean, I think because of these private game owners, a lot of the species have been brought back from extinction.
Yes.
Or from the brink of extinction at least.
Yes.
So a very interesting thing also, I've never been on a hunt. I would like to go and hunt, and then maybe I'll come onto your podcast and give my experience.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I do know, I've known in my lifetime a lot of people that do hunt, and they go once a year. You laughed at me the other day when I said for 6,000 rand, and they filled up their fridge. But this was 20 years ago, okay?
Yeah.
So for however much, they go and hunt, and they fill up their deep freeze with fillets, with T-bones, with mince, borscht, whatever you can think of from their hunt. And then they also donated the skins or the hides to taxidermists or to the local guides or whatever. And every single last thing of that animal that they shot, if they shot 3 kudu or a kudu and 3 veerbokkies, impalas, they had meat. And they fed their family for 6 to 8 months of that meat. And people will go, but it's inhumane because it's unfair, right? And his argument, this friend of mine, was always, have you ever been to an abattoir? Right? Have you seen how these animals stand in line and watch the one in front of him get a pen through his brain? Okay. And then it's actually less humane than hunting. So give us an idea, if you go hunting, what would you typically look for? Right? Because obviously you guys also stock up your fridges. And what's the best game meat?
It depends on the taste you are after. We like to process blue wildebeest. It's a lot of meat, over 100 kilograms you get in meat.
Mm-hmm.
I won't shoot a blue wildebeest that walks in Messina because it eats a certain leaf, and that oil gets into the meat that I don't like, so I'll shoot it rather in an Alice Ras or...
Really?
Yeah, so there's a certain taste I don't like in that meat then. But the best I've eaten was roan. So roan is very close to gamesbuck meat, but that's the best meat I've ever eaten.
So does it work like honey? Because with the bees, you can taste the difference in the honey that comes from like macadamia pollen, sunflower, or whatever. So whatever the animal eats, you can taste it in the meat.
I'll just say with blue wildebeest, obviously I like to process their meat, and that's where I've tasted it. Like impalas, let's say I shoot an impala, I won't make cuts of meat for myself out of that. I'll make biltong and droewors
Mm.
and stuff like that, because it's got a very gamey taste.
Impala jerky.
Yeah. Must try that sometime. But I'll rather I look for blue wildebeest because we'll hang the carcass for 2 weeks. That matures the meat for you. It takes away a lot of the gamey meat. But because we mature the carcass, that's where I taste that
Ah,
that leaf that comes through that taste that I don't like.
okay. And then where do you hunt most of the time? And I wanna use that as a like a segue into what you do with the Americans. And then we must talk about the difference in South African hunters and the environment and the American ones. Because the Americans are a lot more bravado, I think. In the documentaries on TV as well. Also, it's like Bear Grylls stuff.
Yeah.
So where do you hunt most of the time, and what's the best season in South Africa to go hunting?
So I've got hunting concessions all across South Africa, but most of our hunting happens in Limpopo.
Why Limpopo?
I think it's like the capital of hunting in our country. We've got access to mostly all the animals to hunt in South Africa, in Limpopo. Where in the Free State in the Northern Cape, we've got access to different animals that we don't get in Limpopo, like your black wildebeest, your springbuck, your blesbuck, your tsetse. Most of those species we go and hunt in the Free State. Where in Limpopo, we love to hunt, obviously, there's kudu, blue wildebeest, impala, Cape buffalo. Cape buffalo you find all around South Africa, but just in Limpopo, it feels more true to its nature.
And do you hunt specifically with a rifle, or I know your wife Beulah also hunts with you. She goes on these trips, and you both have hunting bows,
Yes,
and she's got a
crossbow.
as well.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? Like, what's more fun? Well, I suppose fun is not the right way to put it, right? Because we're going to piss off a lot of people. But what's the most challenging?
So
Or what's the most... Okay, the reason I ask is because people often go, yeah, but it's unfair because you've got guns and knives and the animal doesn't. And so if it's a fair fight, you must take away your guns and take on a lion. And my argument is, okay, I'll do that if you take away his weapons also, which is
Yeah.
his fangs and his claws.
yeah,
So then it's a fair fight, right? Okay, because I don't have fangs and claws.
yeah, you don't.
Okay, so I know that there's also like, I don't know much about the community, but what I do know is every single community has their politics, right?
Yeah,
So if you're a paraglider, you're not as cool as a guy on a microlight.
Yeah.
Okay. So I suppose I've heard this before. If you shoot with a 306, you're not as cool as the guy who goes into the bush and shoots with a 80-pound hunting bow. And this guy shoots open sights 7 kilometers with a .22. Yeah. What's the difference?
yeah. No, each, like you say, each industry will have its own politics, and that's what keeps us going. We want to be better than the next person. But for me personally, before I started hunting, I started shooting bow. I didn't grow up in a hunter's house. I started shooting bow when I was in school, and by the age of 19, I shot my first animal with a bow. But because you have to get way up closer with the animal, it's a different kind of feeling you get when you do harvest the animal, because it's way more difficult in a sense.
Does it feel more primitive also? Because you actually have to sneak up on him.
Yeah, it depends on what kind of hunt tactic you're going to choose. Are you going to walk and stalk it where you have to sneak up on the animal, or do you sit over water? Or is it like a voorsit jag where you wait for the animal to come in? Okay, this time it's going to walk
so
in
you
this
bait
trail.
him.
Yeah. So it all
What's this shoot over water?
it's like when you're sitting in a blind.
Yeah.
There's a watering hole,
Ah.
and you put some feed out there. That is the most way how we hunt with international hunters, because that's how we secure the animals will come into that spot.
All right.
So me as a professional hunter, I would like to have my client put in an ethical shot on the animal, so we only need one arrow to kill the animal. So at 20 yards, you've got a way better chance at shooting this animal standing still in front of you. So in this way, I can make a better call. I can tell the client, yes, this is a trophy animal, or no, it's not a trophy animal. Let's wait for the next one. Where, let's say I shoot with my 6.5 Creedmoor or my 300 Win Mag. I'll sit my further shot. I've taken animals 780 yards. If I don't have very good optics, I wouldn't tell you how big that animal is at that distance. So I do have a camera that can zoom in there. So that's why I knew I wanted to shoot it, But
So it's all about the animal also, because
Yeah.
it can't be a nice thing to witness an animal in pain because this
No.
guy doesn't know how to shoot properly.
And I think that's the biggest misconception that the anti-hunters have. They think okay, yes, it is a rush we do get when we're taking
Mm.
that shot, but it's rewarding when you find your animal dead. You don't have to take
Slit its
another shot,
throat.
or it's not, suffering or anything. So we want to put in a clean, ethical shot, so we don't have to go through that. And
Okay.
we don't like to see animals suffering,
Mm-mm.
and that's what the people think. We love it. They think it's a bloodlust we have. We want to take a clean, ethical shot so the animal can expire as quickly as possible.
And also, from my experience speaking to people who hunt often, hunters appear to me to have a great love for the bush and for the
Yes.
nature and for animals, and it's like you guys love it
Yeah.
because you're part of it, right? So it makes sense that it's also that respect thing towards the animal. Okay, so bow hunting, is that your preferred one?
For me personally, I love it. My
Mm.
wife, she's
Mm.
not so fond of it. She doesn't like sitting still for that. It's a time consuming process, right? I can remember in 2018, I sat for 10 days without picking up my bow. So I would go and sit in the blind at 6 in the morning. I'll pack myself a little cool bag and I'll get out at the blind at 6 at night.
And
So
then return the next day.
next day, the same.
What were you doing? Waiting for one specific animal?
Yes, I was targeting a specific animal. So my father-in-law was always tell me, technology came, so why do you keep on struggling with your
Mm.
bow? Take the rifle and go look for the animal. But like I said, because I shot my first animal with a bow, it's a different kind of feeling I
Mm.
have and a passion I have towards harvesting animals with a bow. But I mean, I just have that same amount of passion taking longer shots on animals with a rifle,
Mm.
or even close encounters with animals. So every weapon I do hunt with is a different
Tool.
feeling I connect towards that type of hunt.
Okay. And then what was like the longest distance that you shot an animal with your bow?
My furthest shot I've taken with a crossbow was 70 yards.
Mm.
With my bow, I've about 55 yards.
So what pound bow do you hunt with?
I have a 80-pound Voigt RX-7 bow.
And then do the arrows go right through the animal?
Yes. So how we work with the arrow setup, because our animals is thick-skinned,
Mm.
we have to penetrate through the skin to hit the vitals. So you talk about your FOC, your front of center weight.
Mm.
So to penetrate through the skin and through the shoulder bone, we need enough kinetic
Mm.
energy to punch through there. So we want to shoot with a heavy broadhead in front, and then obviously we need a combined weight of the arrow to push that arrow when you shoot it.
Yeah.
So I typically like to have my arrow around about 560, 580 grains. With that, I know I can shoot an impala up to a kudu eland. I'm good with my shot, I'll penetrate.
Mm.
So to give you an example, like when I took a shot on a blue wildebeest bull, that's a very tough animal. At 70 yards with a crossbow, I shot through the blue wildebeest. The arrow went straight through, and we
Sure.
picked it up 40 yards from where I shot it. So if there was another animal standing behind it, I would have wounded that one. So that's why it's so important when you take a shot with a bow, you have to know what's beyond your target.
Mm.
And also with the arrow, it's not like a bullet can also deflect.
Mm.
But I've taken shots on animals where my arrow turned literally 19 degrees. So I shot it on the shoulder, but the arrow exited almost at the neck and hit another animal. Luckily, that animal fell in its tracks.
Shit.
But that's stuff like that you have
And
to
is
keep
it
in
true
mind.
that even something as insignificant, appearing as insignificant as a blade of grass, can, if your arrow touches a blade of grass, it can also like deflect it?
Yeah, I think it depends on where the grass will touch it. If it touches maybe on the Fletcher's side, yes, but not in front on the broadhead side. But
So it seems to me it's more scientific or more of a skill with a bow.
yeah, so I'm very fortunate that the guy who's one of my sponsors is Magnum Archery. That is Seppi still here. He was number 2 in the world, so he's
Where is he from?
Pretoria.
Yeah, because you talk about him a lot when we were in studio the last
Yeah.
time. And it's him that sends you bows, eh?
Yes.
And then you guys test it out, and then
Yes.
okay. So we're gonna put up his details, Johan's details. If there are people who want to get into bow hunting, can we do that?
Yeah, sure.
And then
Thanks.
they can speak to you where to
Yeah.
buy bows and where to buy
Yeah.
arrows. And I think at the moment there's only really one place for the youngsters to get a start, and that's Marinsky, because
Yeah.
they're known for their archery,
Yeah.
and their archers are really good.
Yeah.
Other than that, what's the age limit that you take people on hunts?
Yeah, it looks like I took my son last year for his first hunt. He was 4.5 years old.
Okay.
But it was an easy hunt. We had a pop-up blind, and I know the porcupine come in
Yeah.
each night at the same time. So I put the rifle in a death grip, so that means the rifle is secure. It can't move anyway. So I try to make it as easy as possible for him to take the shot.
Yeah.
But before we went on that hunt, I spent a lot of time putting up caps of bottles, sitting at the same distance, letting him shoot the caps.
So he gets used to it.
Yeah. But at that young age, they can't pull back a bow or anything.
Yeah.
So we'll take a small caliber like a 22 or 223, or we'll take the crossbow out. But personally, I would like to have a scenario like that for them to get in a clean, ethical shot rather than wounding the animal and then make them afraid of taking
Or
the next
wounding
shot again.
themselves.
Yeah.
Please tell me the story about that friend of yours that shot himself through the ass with an arrow.
So what happened is, obviously with the bow hunters in America, they sit in ladder stands in the trees. So he was about to get out of the ladder stand. And normally it's at night time, because let's say you do have animals around you. Whitetail are the most skittish animals I've ever hunted in my life. They look up in trees.
What's a whitetail? Just for those of us who don't know.
So whitetail is typical the American animal they would hunt, and that is their meat supply most of the guys would get for
So
the rest of
compared to our animal, which one would you compare?
a whitetail body size, I'll say it's closer to almost a Nyala bull. It's a very big animal.
So it's a common one.
Yeah, that's the most common one they get all over the country.
Okay, so he was climbing down this.
Okay, so what happens?
Okay, wait a minute. First off, the animals look up in the trees. Ours don't do that, eh? So the American animals are more intelligent than ours.
I'll say they're more educated.
First world problems, eh? First world animals. Okay. Okay. So he was up in the what do you call it?
A ladder stand.
A ladder stand.
Okay.
Okay. So he was yeah.
He was. So what happens if there's whitetail in front of you? You don't want them to see you climbing out of the ladder stand, because then they won't come back, because they'll know obviously there's a hunter in the tree waiting for them.
Because they look up.
So it was about nighttime. He got out of the ladder stand, but then his arrow fell out of his quiver. The quiver is where you put away you attach your arrows to. So it fell out of the quiver down the ladder, and he was busy climbing down, and it fell against a brush. And when he went, I think he tripped backwards, and the broadhead was sticking up like this, and he fell with his butt inside that
on the
that
broadhead. Okay, so you show me what a broadhead looks like, right? It's the one that looks like the Rambo arrow with all the like razor sharp.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can't pull it out.
No, you won't pull it out. So he had to, in a way, hold the broadhead still and loosen it and screw it and pull that out.
Unscrew the shaft out.
Yeah.
And then so the head is still stuck in his ass.
Yes, the broadhead was still stuck in his ass. Then he had to walk back to his truck, and they rushed him. He had to drive to the ER to get that removed. It's crazy.
And how many of those kind of encounters do you know of? What's like some really cool hunting stories? And I'm not talking about like everyone can shoot the furthest, right? And like has shot 4 buffalo with one shot with a Vimbix, from 3 kilometers away, because that's just the way that real men do it, right? So what's some of the really cool stories that you've experienced on a hunt?
Yeah, and one of the stuff was we were hunting lion, That was a nerve-wracking hunt. You know, I was a camera guy back then, so I didn't have a rifle in my hand. And we were approaching the area where we knew the lion was in. And the next moment, we saw a lion flying through the air. A herd of buffalo
Ah,
found the lion, and obviously they picked him up and threw him. So we quickly rushed towards where that lion was, and the buffalo ran off. But as we came around the bush, the lion was looking straight at us. It's like 5 yards away from
what does
us.
that feel like?
Yo, I don't know.
You can say it. You can say it. We'll censor it.
No, you
Was
want,
it a brown feeling?
yes. And then obviously I had to film the client taking the shot. And he asked us where to shoot. We just say, just kill it, shoot in the head, you know. And the next moment he took the shot and the lion luckily stayed right there. And, you know, when I went closer, there was no bullet hole on the head of that lion. So that guy had so much
Adrenaline.
bokwers, adrenaline. He pulled his shot at 5 yards to move that much.
So he didn't shoot the lion.
He shot it in the neck and
Oh.
spined the animal.
Oh shit. So how? Because you're a big guy. Like how big are you? 6'2".
Yeah, I think it's about 6'2", yeah.
Okay. And how big was the lion? Like in real life, people don't know, right? You see them in the Kruger Park there in the distance, or you see them in a zoo. But I've tried to explain to some of my city friends, the one you see in the zoo is not the one that's going to give you a brown moment in the bush, right? So, have you ever been rushed by animals that you didn't expect? Like maybe you stumbled across a herd of buffalo that you didn't know was there, or an elephant that you maybe gave a fright and it charged you.
Yeah, I've been on dangerous game courses a few times in my life before. We were privileged to do a course with a wildlife college at the Orpen gate there in the Kruger National Park.
That's Malalaan side,
Yeah,
Orpen, yeah.
yeah. So they teach you how to stalk these animals. The closest I've been to an elephant in the wild is probably 4 or 5 yards.
Shit.
But they teach you how to approach these animals and how to look for danger signs and stuff like that. It doesn't say the animal will react like that. I mean, if he's pissed off that day, you in shit. So that's
And then, speaking of elephants, I grew up in Palabora, so that's elephant country. We see them in the streets, we see them in the bush, and then also obviously we used to go to the Kruger Park quite often because we lived 300 meters away, 700 yards away, right, from the Kruger Park gate. And I've seen this with my own eyes. You'll drive past, that massive animal will stand right next to the road and you won't see it.
yeah.
Okay. And that's the importance of camouflage, which is what you do. Right. So I didn't know until you approached me in December and explained to me what it is. The technology or the science behind camo. You must hear this. This is like, it's how every animal sees you differently, and how the color of your or the hue in your camo plays an important part, which is why you're struggling to get the print done properly. Yeah. Okay, so camo is camo, right? I can go to Mr. Price home or Mr. Price, and I can go buy myself one of those little camo onesies, those army onesies. That's most camo, isn't it?
You can buy it if you want to.
So what's the difference? Like,
yeah, Joe, you know, part of our journey is obviously we've worked with a lot of other companies in the past, and it was in 2020 actually when we started thinking about doing our own brand, but we put it on ice for a while, and then last year we decided, well, let's take it off ice and look at the pattern again. But through the years we've learned a lot, what worked, what doesn't work. And when we were busy developing a pattern, we thought, okay, what will put our pattern above the rest? So why do you wear camouflage? Is it cool?
Yeah, it's very cool. You feel like, you know, stolen valor cool, you know.
So do you want to look cool in the field, or don't you want the animals to see you? What's most important?
Yeah, you obviously don't want the animals to see you.
So camouflage, to compete, obviously you have to put something out that's not in the market, and you want to blend into the nature so that the animals can't see you.
And how do they see you? Do they see your silhouette, or do they see the colors? Or obviously they smell you, obviously, but you're a PH, so you'll just make sure you're not downwind, right? But the idea, you explained it to me very nicely in December, so just do it again because can't remember. It's not true that animals can't see blue.
Yeah, they can see blue.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
so they only have the color spectrum in their eyes isn't the same like we as humans have. So I had to buy an app through the University of Illinois where they study deer and how deer's eye can see. So they do see blue and they do see some parts of brown and green, but the rest is more like a washed out color.
Okay.
So the main focus on our pattern when we designed is we don't want it to look like a blob because then you
You stand out.
you stand out, your silhouette isn't broken. We want you to completely blend in with your surrounding. So we had to think about the colors we use, we had to think about the objects we use, we had to think about the depth we use in the design. So all that played a role how that pattern will camouflage when it's put against something in the nature, you know.
And then you mentioned something, and I could be wrong, I'm turning 45 in a week from now, so
Wim Joe.
yeah. So die brein hy is, no? You said something about, because you and your wife go to the States quite often,
Yes.
and you said something about the bright orange that they have to wear there because the hunters can see each other, but the
Yes.
animals can't see you.
Yes.
And that's bright orange.
Yeah, so bright orange displays more like a brown color to them. So it doesn't bother them that much we see it as a bright orange, but you as a hunter, obviously, okay, because they hunt on public land, it's not like here in South Africa where there is parts where you can go to a private game reserve that's fenced in. Most of the hunters in America look down on people hunting on fenced properties.
Because it's caged,
Yeah.
canned hunting.
But
yeah.
but that's another misconception. Like that's the only way we can continue in South Africa is to put up fences to stop poaching, and
Yeah.
that's a big problem. The meat poaching going around. So if we don't have those high fences, obviously our animals won't cease to exist.
Well, that's what's happening in Letsitele at the moment.
Yeah.
Snares and all that stuff.
But in America, they've got access to public land hunting. So
Is that where they go, okay, hunting season is officially starting tomorrow?
yes.
Okay, and then
And
it
then they-
ends then.
Then they have to go to the local gun store and buy a tag that will tell them if they can shoot a doe or a buck.
Okay.
But they've got an app called OnX that will show them if it's privately owned land or public land. So if you are on public land, you can park your truck next to the road, you can go in there and you can hunt. But so can your neighbor. So if you're sitting in a tree, how's your neighbor gonna know you are there if you're wearing camouflage that blends well?
Well, you can just ask the buck or the
Yeah,
deer because they
obviously.
just look up, right? And then they just Okay, so is that why then you wear the orange then?
Yes, they call it blaze orange.
Okay. And in South Africa, we don't have anything like that.
Now, because we hunt on private properties,
Yeah.
we don't need
Okay,
that.
so you know that this group is going to be in this block or the
Yes.
Okay. And so your journey with this camouflage thing, and then you design your pattern, then how do you test it?
So we obviously we printed a lot of banner material first to see if it does break up. So I'll go to my one friend down here in Zanin, Peter. He prints the banner to me. I'll go back home. I'll tell my wife, wrap it around your body and go stand there. I'll put on the filter and I'll check.
That's a very, very good pickup line, dude. That's smooth.
And yeah, that's how we firstly noticed that the pattern was looking cool for our eyes. But when I put on the deer filter, I was like, okay, now there's a mustard color.
So you've got a deer. You showed me also, and I think that we must show the viewers or the listeners as well. So we'll get that from Johan. How the deer sees an object.
Yes.
You've got an app that's the app
Yes.
you're talking about, right?
Yes.
From university.
Yeah.
And so then, okay, so now Beulah wraps herself. You look through there, and then do you look to see her silhouette?
Yes, I look to see it. Does the pattern break up, or if she's standing there, does it stand out, or what's the problem? Because if a buck will look at you, obviously,
Yeah.
okay, that color is not supposed to be there. So
Yeah.
that's how we started to check. Okay, we must change this color.
But that's really cool, man. That's like it's it's a cool thing to be a part of. For me personally, it feels lekker because now you guys are starting this thing, right? And you said that the international market likes the your camo, the ones you've tested it so
Yeah,
far.
so we were hunting in America November last year, and we tested it in Texas, in Tennessee, in Montana, and also in Georgia. So I didn't come home with my camo, so obviously those guys loved it, and now they want to know how they're gonna come by it that side. But when we came back, there were certain colors we were still struggling with because when I looked at the pattern, it was like a pinkish color I didn't like. So we came back, and I received my samples yesterday. So we on a good track in
Okay.
getting it up there. Yeah.
And how does it? Obviously, the flora here is different to there. So, do you design one then for local South African, or does it just work all across the
Yeah,
board?
that's why we go to different parts of the world to test it if it's going to work here. So in America, we know how I can show you a picture how it blends in the woods in Tennessee. Like I almost disappear there. So I know the pattern's working perfectly. So in March, we're going to New Zealand. So that's the next part where we're going to test it there. But it's a different kind of field we're going to. It's more mountainous. So it's grasslands and stuff like that, where we'll see what's going to happen, you know.
Yeah, because obviously to travel the world, it's got nothing to do with it's lucky to travel the world. It's purely because you need to test your camo. And obviously,
Part of it, yeah.
you'd probably need to take two people with that know how to document everything properly. You know, we are up for it. Go to New Zealand. And then, what did you find? You said to me the other day, a reindeer in real life is massive,
Caribou, yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Like when you talk huge, how huge?
They're about the size of kudu.
That's so. That's the Santa sleigh
Yeah.
pulling us, right? And have you ever in the woods there? Because there's a picture that we're going to get from you. We're going to put it up on the screen where you've got a Kruger National Park mug, but you're sitting in the
Montana.
in Montana,
In the Rocky Mountains. That was crazy.
and isn't that also where there's a lot of the Bigfoot sightings?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Bigfoot, I saw a lot of boards driving up there, Bigfoot encounters, whatever. I was, the most eerie feeling I had was at 4 a.m. in the morning. We had to sneak in those woods. But the first board you see, beware of the bears, because the grizzly bears are from there. If you watch the Revenant,
Yeah.
that movie plays through your head, then you
And they are slightly bigger than 6'2".
yeah.
Right.
And they're aggressive. So that's the first thing. Then you find out, okay, there's timber wolves as well.
Yeah.
So then you thought you're macho because you come from Africa and you've got all these animals, but when you come there, it's like, okay, but I don't have a rifle in my hand. What now? You know. So we were walking in formation. My friend was in the front with a rifle. Then Beulah was walking behind him. Then his girlfriend was walking behind Beulah with a rifle, and then I had to walk at the back with no rifle.
Yeah.
So we had to sneak into the woods because obviously you don't want the animals to see us getting into their habitat. You know, my friend had a tag to hunt in the Rocky Mountains. That's insane. So we snuck in there, but one of the pictures I have is like a scene from the Blair Witch Project. You know, it's like eerie and it looks like we're walking through the woods. So we snuck up there in the mountains. Man, I was unfit when I was there. I struggled to breathe walking up that.
And that was at
mountain.
night. I think I saw the footage.
Yeah, it was like at 5 a.m. in the morning we got there. Because my friend said we had to sneak into a certain area where we can glass from. So glass means we scout the mountains to see if we can see animals.
Oh, with a glass. Right?
Yeah. So we snuck in there and just I was cold. You know, I'm not used to snow. So my one friend who invites me on these world adventures, Dennis, bought Beulah a pair of self-warming socks.
You said they charge.
Yes, they
Because
charge.
with a USB charger.
Yes. Type C.
Type-C.
And I didn't get a pair of those socks. I thought, okay, well, I've got my pair of Under Armour boots. I'm good. Man, when I stopped up there in the morning in the snow, my feet were so cold. I was afraid of getting frostbite, so cold I was. So we started making a fire there and just to warm up a little bit. And yeah, then my friend brought with his jet boil. It's like a little Primus that they put up a little like a kettle and it boils your coffee. And I had a Kruger National Cup there and was just, you know,
A good moment.
you feel awestruck at that moment. You realize you're a South African sitting on top of the Rocky Mountains, getting to experience this. Who else gets to experience that from your country? You know, it's like it's a priceless moment we got to experience.
Um. So what keeps you alive? Like in South Africa, is it because hunting season isn't right through the year, right?
No.
So you've got your podcast that you've just started, which was very cool. The first episode that I watched,
Thanks, man.
and then the camo thing is your next big project. Okay, and then you you are a PH, proper PH.
Yes.
So do you focus mostly on foreign hunters
Yes.
and mostly Americans?
Yeah, in international clients.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when there aren't any clients, what do? Do you
So-
go there and test out your camos? And
Yeah, so I'm very fortunate to have friends across the world that they invite me to come hunt with them on their side. You know, they want me to experience different experiences and to showcase it on our TV show on the episodes. So except for the hunting and for the camo we started, we do a lot of product filming for the importers. So when we started out with the TV show, some of the sponsors we got, they asked, "Can you do some promotional videos?" I said, "I don't know, we can try." You know, because when I had the chance to start out with our TV show, I went and asked for quotation back in 2016, and the cheapest I got, I think, was 120K. I was like, no ways, I'm not going to pay that. So me and my wife started doing a filming ourselves, and from then, you know, we're very fortunate to do some filming for big companies every
Yeah.
month.
Yeah. So you're talking about the your TV program, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about that. What's it called? It's different to your podcast.
Yeah, my podcast, I made HTP podcast, but it actually stands for Huntech Pro. So back when we had the chance to start out with a TV show, I needed a catchy name, and my wife is the
We all need catchy names, dude.
so my wife is obviously the creative one in our relationship, and she says, "Well, what do you want to show on your episodes?" I say, "Well, I think using the latest stuff will be cool, and obviously I want to be professional in it." So she said, "What about Huntech Pro then?" And that's how we started with, you know, the hunting and the technology and being professional about everything. And when we started out, there was a network called Wild TV Africa, and they told us to send them a pilot episode. I said, "Okay, cool. We'll go film something and we'll send you the episode." So, you know, we go out, we got a farm, and we showcase hunting as it is, you know. And I shot Impala and I interviewed the farm owner, and I said, "Okay, no, it's cool." And I think we put in a little segment where we visited the Predator Park outside the town, and I said, "Okay, that's my 30-minute episode. This is how it's gonna look." The guy called me back. He says, "You can't put that on TV." It's like, why? You know? It's like, well, firstly, your animal is still a little bit doing the the doodskop, and there's blood everywhere, and you can't shoot out of the face. You have to shoot from a shooting stick. And I said, "Okay, so you like the content, but it's just certain stuff I have to."
It's not politically correct.
Yeah.
And did you also check which gender
Yeah.
the lion was? What does he identify as? Right? Because otherwise,
Anyway, and then I went on Facebook and I put out a message. I said, "Well, do you want to promote your game farm? I've got this unique opportunity for you." And one of my old hostel friends called me. He says, "Well, I'm a PH at this 5-star farm." I said, "You're a PH on a 5-star farm? I don't believe this, you know." Anyway, he says, "Yes, this is where I work." And we went to film our first episode. Then I sent that back to the network, and they immediately gave me a 2-year contract to film episodes of Hunting for them, you know. Our first 5 episodes were in Afrikaans, still called Hunting, you know.
yeah.
But after that, I changed. We did everything in English, obviously looking more at the international market.
And more people can. My argument is always this, right? People go, "But you don't have enough Afrikaans content in your newspaper." And I'm like, true, but you got to read the room, okay? So if I'm going to cover an event about the voortrekkers, obviously I'll do that in Afrikaans because the audience who's interested in that are going to be majority Afrikaans people. Why do you have your ads in English?
Yeah, yeah,
Right? Because everybody, irrespective of your nationality or your culture or your language or whatever ethnicity, everybody in this country can understand English at least and have a very basic communication of English.
Yes.
But not everybody can understand. I've got English friends, South African English friends, who can't understand a word of Afrikaans. So what are we doing? You've got a message, you want to bring it across, you do it in a language or in a medium that everybody can access.
Yeah.
Okay. So where do we watch your TV show?
So Handtech Pro can be found on YouTube. All our episodes are there. On my website, you can access anything we have out there. And then if you from the States, you can watch it on Outdoor Action TV and also Carbon TV. And from the second quarter, we'll be on one of the biggest networks called the Pursuit Channel. We'll be airing on there.
Also in the States.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we can access it from here if you change
Yes.
your IP address.
Yeah, if you like Outdoor Action TV, you can access from an app or from your website, and same with Carbon TV as well.
Okay. And where do you film most of it?
Well, it's now across the world. We're very
Yeah.
fortunate. It sounds bad, but if I did stay in Afrikaans, I wouldn't have these opportunities.
No, of course not.
While TV didn't work out, I said, well, okay, then YouTube is my biggest platform, and that's why we changed to English and did everything in that.
Another thing that I wanted to ask, because you spoke about it briefly before we went on camera, the Beretta experience.
Yes.
Okay. So you went hunting with Beretta,
Yes.
not the gun, the guy, the actual guy with the surname,
Yes.
Beretta. So you said he was 21,
Yes.
okay? And his surname is Beretta.
Yes. Carlo Beretta.
And what was that like? How did that come about? Like, how did that start? Okay, because it's quite an introduction, right? My name's Beretta. Okay, so tell us about that.
So I was very fortunate, obviously, with all the filming we do for the companies. One of the importers is Beretta, and the owner called me. I think it was like on a weekend. He says, "I've got something unique for us to film." It's like, what? He says, "No, the owner of Beretta is coming this side." It's like, what? You're like, he's the owner of or he's the importer of Beretta in South Africa. So
It's Italian, right?
yeah, so Beretta is a company over 400 years old. So obviously the owner won't be 400 years old, but
No.
I mean, yeah. So I was very excited, obviously, because to be associated with something like that was going to be huge for us,
Mm.
And yeah, when I met the owner, he was like 21 years old. It's like, geez, okay. But what was amazing for me to hear from him, he wasn't put in the CEO position. He first had to work inside the factory to know how the weapons get assembled, where the steel gets. After that, he moved to the section where they buy everything. So he had to learn where they buy all their products from, and only from there on they put him into marketing. And so the next step will be for him to become the CEO from the company
And take over from his dad or his
Yeah,
uncle
his
or
uncle,
whoever.
yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Johan. That was a really lucky discussion.
Yeah, Joe, it was fun, but the next one, I think the next trip or somewhere this year, at least you must come with on one of our
Yeah.
hunting trips, and then you can share the experience on our podcast.
Yeah, maybe the one in New Zealand. Right?
That would be cool.
So I don't know if I'll be able to draw an 80-pound bow. So maybe, and also probably for my first hunt, it's not opportune to go for a bow, right? Probably go. I'm quite a good shot, eh? Like really, I'm good with a rifle, but very good with a Beretta. Not name dropping or anything. So it would be a good experience. I'm just not eating any raw organs. I'm not rubbing blood or urine on my face.
If you're not going to eat something, at least you must get some little blood on your face.
Yeah, well, I'll eat a T-bone steak. Okay, but I think it'll be great to go with on my first hunt. Go with you. We document it, and then
Yeah.
we can talk on your podcast about it. But good luck for future endeavors, and I'm very excited about your camo. It's gonna be very cool, and it's like right here from Zanin. You're a Zanin boyki anyway,
Yeah.
so go follow Huntech. Guys, the details are in the description of this video, and also you can click on one of the videos in the top corner at the end of this podcast, and then we'll see you again.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
It's a pleasure. Ciao.
Het jy dit nou rekord?
Okay.